And now for something completely different.
They call this motherfucker Badmouth with a CCA corner hat on, holding up picket sign that says one service, one table, one cola for all.
All right. If you guys are still listening, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening while you're out, on your handoff, while you're buried in Costco ads and Uline, while you're out on your route, or if you're at your second job, posing as a Nigerian prince, writing emails for scams. Not scams; they're legitimate, right? For all intents and purposes, that was a joke. This is Badmouth, and I'm joined today by my co-host and brother-in-arms, Townie. Townie, you want to say hi?
Yeah, what's up? I'm here.
All right. Townie, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we are talking about burnout. The who, what, how, when, and where, or the ins and outs of burnout. Some tips and tricks on how to notice within yourself, especially for the young cats and the new jacks. And also how to spot it for your fellow union siblings. This job can go from hell yeah, mailman, to damn, I gotta do this again. Then hopefully Badmouth and myself can pump you up in our keep your head up section. And then, as always, we hit it up with the recap and the closeout with the Badmouth soapbox.
All right.
Hold up. I mean the Cole soapbox for this episode.
Oh, we got Cole, the wizard of the ones and twos. He's gonna swing in at the on the ass end and piss off our editor with to close out the episode. I'm excited for that. Hey, so Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, I know we did. I know. Before you come on, Mallory and God love Mallory. I love Mallory. The her and I and Cole, we cranked out a big mental health episode. I know some of this we're going to be touching on. We also touched on this. So, but burnout specifically is something that can affect everybody, right? Can you get into the nuts and bolts? I know you spent a lot of time going over old dusty tomes and websites to come up with some of the information. Like what is burnout, brother? Can you start diving into that?
I'm gonna dive in. I'll just do a big overhaul of it and really dive into the who, what, how, when, and where kind of situation of burnout. So burnout is defined as the exhaustion of physical or emotional strength or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged stress or frustration, and that comes from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Who does it affect? It affects anyone that experiences stress, just like you and I, And in our cases, I think you really got to look at the CCA position, with the uncertain workload and the schedule that can be super variable. How does it happen? It happens when the stress that you are under, whether it's work related or it could be personally related, goes unmanaged. And when does it happen? It happens when, especially here, when there are unclear responsibilities, intense workloads, there lack of communications, and the immense deadline of
Hold on,
pressures.
just to catch you there. So unmanaged, sort of like the never knowing where you're going to go, never knowing what route you're going to be on, never knowing, am I going to get the dog and oh no. Okay, wait, we haven't done the. Okay, never mind. Hold on. Look, can we back up because we didn't do the swear jar yet. So I think that's a freebie for me. We're gonna talk about swear jar. I don't know if you want to cut that Cole or leave that in. All right, I'm just gonna go back ahead. We're leaving it in. All right. So we're gonna talk about swear jar in a little bit when we talk about what burnout looks like for each of us. But it sucks to be a CCA. Everything, you never know what you're going to be carrying. You're going to get the worst parts of the worst routes. Am I going to get the dog shit end of 9, or am I going to get the garbage on 7? Right? And you never know what station they're going to try and bounce you around everywhere. Guys, you are, and I want to encourage you. This sounds harsh, but it's true. You are the most overworked and underpaid people at that post office, and
Let's
it
emphasize the overworked part of it. And
overworked.
that is the
Yep.
burnout right there.
Yep. And that causes burnout because like you're sucking this up, you're sucking it up, you're doing your best, you're putting one foot in front of the other like a mailman or mail ma'am or mail fam does. And you're doing that because you're in this for the long haul. You're gonna get through the hell of being a CCA and you're gonna have a better life. But that still gets hard, man. Like I don't know how I made it aside from being a stubborn cuss, and I don't know how some other folk make it. Like, right? So we want to encourage you and equip you for this and catching burnout. Sorry, I interrupted your section, JT.
That's all right. You get all excited and you hop right in, and I don't mind that.
Yeah.
So, and then you look at it, where does this occur? And it occurs in prolonged stressful situations at work. Whether you feel like you're having a boss that's over you, watching everything you do. The scanner with the breadcrumb trail all the time. They're always watching you. You know, but I feel that I've seen it a lot when it comes to New Jacks being on an overburdened route. And it's clearly overburdened, and they become motivated and they want to be able to finish it. They have this ambitious I got to prove to my boss, I got to prove to myself that I can do this. And then it goes on to they end up giving you a little more. You work a little harder, you get a little more. We used to have a cat in our zone when I started up. He came in one day and he'd be like, I run my route and I get a little more. I run my route and I get a little more. And it's true, man. That's that thing. And that speeds up the burnout process. um for me, burnout happens a lot when it's cold, when the snow's on the ground up here in the Northeast, ice is everywhere. Everyone's physically and mentally exhausted, but me, it comes out very emotionally. I get very grumpy. Wouldn't you say, Badmouth?
Oh yeah, brother. Like okay. uh, Talking to you when you're getting burnt out, I can recognize it immediately because you go from Samwise Gamgee to Gimli the dwarf. Suddenly, suddenly, I'm trying to figure out. Do I need to toss this cat? Like, suddenly, I got to be the cheerleader, right? And yeah, yeah. So that's what it looks like for you. Like, are we getting into 12 stages, or are we doing that afterwards?
We can get into 12 station afterwards. We could talk about
Oh
you.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah. What? Okay,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
bring up the necessary need for that swear jar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, all right. Truth time, gang. So burnout can look different for different people. Like Townie, he gets grumpy. I got buddies who they're always positive, they're always quick with a joke. That's Townie. But I can tell when he's getting burnt out because he's in the dumps. He's growling. He's grumpy. That's the way a lot of people it manifests for them, right? Um, like I have a carrier that I absolutely love, and I'll give a shout out to Choice. She's brilliant. If she's not singing in the morning, I know that I need to check on her, right? Because that's it's we got to recognize this stuff. For me personally, um, I'm laughing and I'm loud and I'm doing all this all the shit I always do. We haven't started the swear jar yet, by the way. We're moving into that. But one of the things is I stopped caring about some of the little things. Like I like having a beer after work, and sometimes I get on a podcast and I have one beer limit on the podcast. But if I'm burnt out, I start thinking I ain't getting paid for any of this nonsense. I can have two beers, and then I end up sloppy by the end of the podcast. I mean, we have long-term listeners. I'm sure y'all could have heard that at different points. Like that's me when I start getting burnt out. I stop caring about that. I start swearing a lot more. I stop watching my language. I stop, I stop. I start. It's that's how it comes out for me. Is I start being like, who gives a shit, right? And on that, Townie is having me start a swear jar because I'm burnt out as hell. And I have, that's been an issue lately. It's something that like, it becomes an issue and I catch it and I fix it. I get my head back out of my rear end and get back in the game, right? We need to recognize when we're burnt out and when our buddies are burnt out and support each other. Townie started calling me on this stuff, and I was like, you know what, brother, you're right. So with that, and now we can, Townie, I'm not going to keep track of my swears. You're in charge of keeping track of my swears. We're launching the Badmouth swear jar, and we'll figure out what we want to do with that. What do you think, Townie? One bone or five bones?
I don't know. We'll figure it out when we come to the end. Maybe we'll leave it up to the Discord to give some
Oh
suggestions.
God, don't you can't put anything in the hands of those monsters.
We're opening Pandora's box right
Oh
now.
no.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no.
Oh
Okay, all right.
no.
Okay, we'll
Uh,
figure it out, but we'll figure out what amount is going in the swear jar and where at the end of the year we put that money. But we're launching the Bad Mouth swear jar from here on out. Every time I let it curse, hell and damn, I don't think should count. But
nope.
nope, those ones don't count. The harder ones. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. All right, so we're launching the
We're
swear
we're
jar.
ta- we're talking about the George Carlin ones, the deep ones.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
If
so
you
like,
know about that older comedian way back in the day.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh
so
yeah.
with that, we're using that as sort of a fun way to keep each other accountable, right? Because Townie, if he's being a big grump, I'm going to joke with him. I'm going to cheerlead him because I recognize that he's my buddy. I want to do that to improve. He's brought up the swear jar. That's to keep me from to watch my stuff because that's how burnout manifests for me, right? That's just buds being buds. That's guys being dudes, dudes being pals, right? And you got to look out for each other. One of the best ways, and now that we've talked a little bit about our own personal experiences and how that kind of looks for us, Tony, can you talk about the 12 stages of burnout so we can kind of recognize this stuff in our own lives and in each other's lives?
Yeah, so there are different models. There's actually one that's the 5 stages of burnout, which is like really quick honeymoon moon phase, onset of stress, chronic stress, physical and emotional exhaustion, and then habitual burnout. Like that's bang 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 bang. And I feel like when you're working at the post office, you really see the actual 12 stages. And this comes from Clinic Les Alpes. It's from Switzerland, this site here. Yeah, and they broke it down, and like I literally know exactly where I was at that point when we were talking, and then we decided to do this episode. So the first stage is compulsive ambition. I must prove myself, which is pretty much becoming a CCA. You feel like you got to prove yourself. You got to get that route and done in 8. You got to get that, and you got to get your swing. You know, the second stage is working harder. I must do more, and you can get convinced to do more for less. The other thing too is neglecting needs. So that's number 3, neglecting needs. I don't have time for that. When you stop, doing the things you need to do and you're just rushing because you don't have the time or you feel you don't have the time. 4 is avoiding conflict. Nothing is wrong. 5 is revising values. This is more important, is what it says. 6 is denying problems. The problem is others, when you start kind of blaming others. Withdrawal. I need time alone. You can notice that with me. I'm very out in the open. Um
Grumpy Bunny. Grumpy
oh
Bunny.
yeah.
No, I'm
Oh
fine. I'm
yeah.
fine. Grumpy Bunny.
Exactly. Um, number 8 is concerning others. I'm fine. Stop worrying. Yeah, stop worrying, Badmouth. I'm fine. Um, 9 is depersonalization, which is I just need to make it through today. And that's exactly where I was. I was at the I just need to make it through today. 10 is sense of emptiness. I don't feel much anymore. 11 is depression. Nothing really matters. And 12 is the final stage of burnout. I can't go on. I don't know, Badmouth. Where do you think you were on that on
Oh,
that?
good Lord. Yeah, I think the thing with these stages too, it's kind of like the stages of grief. They don't always happen in order, but if you're hitting multiples of these 12 stages and you're collecting, don't want to catch them all on these, right? I think
They're not
I already have.
Pokemon.
Yeah, I already have like chronic depression issues, and like we talk about that in the mental health episode. That's another plug. Go back and listen to that if you've not heard it. But I have the compulsive um, ambition to work harder. I see so much in the people who work in this union to make the union better, right? How many people are like, well, the world's on fire. I got to prove myself. We got to do something. We don't we like this is important. Whatever I have to do something, right? Because it we feel so much better doing something than sitting around and catastrophizing, right? And that's kind of, if you're starting to do that, that's a big sign for me. Like I said, with my like I'll just stop watching my language, or I'll stop, I stop taking care of myself. Like I'm bad at taking care of myself. I gotta set reminders and stuff, right? Like, so the stage 11 and like some of the depersonalization, yeah, when you're a CCA, like I just got done living in a damn tent, right? Like you have to like look at your struggle and you have to compartmentalize it, right? Like I just got to make it through today. Tomorrow is tomorrow's problem, right? And these are all different things. I think of it less as stages, like you're going to go through all of these, and more of like you got a checklist of 12. And if you're writing off on that checklist and you're hitting 8 of those 12, my friend, you got something you got to address. Does that make sense, Tony?
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I definitely feel you on that. So I got a question for you. So burnout and neurodivergence, right? People who are neurodivergent experience burnout for the same reasons as everyone else, right? We were just saying that. But they have additional factors like sensory overload. You know, sometimes they mask their social demands. They change their routines, you know, and not having accommodations, met, especially in the workplace. And that's another thing that I've pulled out of the mentalhealthafamerica.org. That's another spot where you can get some good information on burnout and how to pretty much prevent it, or take care of your burnout and realize, okay, I need to stop changing up my routine. I got to start doing what I need to do and take care of myself.
Yeah, and I know we're going to touch on that a little bit later, but like if you have like my buddies with autism where a routine is incredibly important, if like what your burnout is starting to affect your routine, I think they in the therapy circles and the professionals, they call that comorbidity, right? Where you have one issue
Yep.
that interacts and has that intersectionality with another issue and it compounds it. Like I said, I have chronic depression, right? If I'm burned out, I do not have, like, it just compounds that. It makes it worse. It makes my ADHD go out of control, right? And it makes it to where everything feels like a struggle. Just getting out the door and getting to work is sometimes the hardest part of my day. And I might be working a 10-hour shift, right? The hardest part of my day might be just prying my rear end out of bed so I can just get to the office, right? I might have an argument with my manager, and I might get chased by a dog that day, buried in Uline magazines, and still the hardest part of my day was just prying my rear end out of bed, right? Like this stuff, you need to have grace for yourself. And if you got mental health stuff like autism or ADHD or depression or anxiety, Oh, dude, I don't deal with anxiety if all my mental health stuff is taken care of, right? And I'm taking care of myself. But I get panic attacks if I'm burnt out and it's aggravating my ADHD and aggravating my depression and aggravating these other things because all this stuff compounds. That's the type of stuff Tony's talking about. If you have mental health concerns, again, plug in that episode, go back and listen to that. And then also, like, this is something you especially need to be watching and taking care to sometimes acknowledging it and noticing it is that's definitely the first step to fixing it, right? You can't be in denial, which is one of those stages Tony was talking about of burnout. Acknowledge that it's a problem so you can make a plan to kind of interrupt that stuff, get back your routine, right? And we'll talk about a little bit more of that before. I hope I didn't derail too much, Tony.
No. I want to slide right in. Because you kind of touched on something that I didn't really put in the outline, but it's another thing. I found this. I found this one on WebMD is a good one. Another good source. Don't ever look at it if you feel like you have an ankle sprain, because then they'll tell you your whole leg's broken. But if you're looking at simple, small things, and you're looking at those, you can use it as a source. But don't ever, if you get a splinter or something, look it up on WebMD. But WebMD likes to really note out some things. And you talked about not having a plan in place. You don't have a plan in place, you can end up with the effects of untreated burnout, which is just basic things like weight gain. It could be something as small as that, as to something as big as stomach and gastrointestinal problems. It can lead to more headaches, muscles and joint pains, and those simple things, just cramp your lifestyle even more than it already is. So one of the things that I know we look at too, like one of the things that I notice when it comes to burnout, I try to be the happy-go-lucky guy as much as I can. Some people that really, really know me see that I can be very cynical on a lot of things. I can be very like, I don't know about that. But in general, I try to be the happy-go-lucky guy because generally I like what I do, and I enjoy where the post office has gotten me to in my life. And I tell people, one of the things is, you know, identify the positive part of your day. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with Badmouth. For me, sometimes it's about getting out the door, and that's the tough part. But I think to myself, well, the quicker I get out the door, the quicker I get on with my day, the quicker I'll be able to return home to my family and enjoy whatever's left of that day, whether it's dinner and a movie. And for those who know me, know I have a son. So we sit there, we'll throw on the other day, we threw on Night at the Museum, and just watching him come to life, watching that film and that things were coming alive, The next day I woke up, because we never finish a movie because he's always ready to go to bed after about half an hour. So we break that up in sections. So the next day I know, okay, cool, we got another 30 minutes. He's going to love this. He's going to freak out that the giant T-Rex is going crazy. And it's setting up those attitudes to give yourself something to look forward to, and not allowing the situation you're in, whether it's an unrealistic expectation, whether it's the climate, stressing about a situation, you had an interaction that didn't go well with a customer, or you didn't have an interaction that didn't go well with a coworker or a union sibling, or, those are those things that, you got to reframe and reset your mind, and set your priorities, make sure that you're hitting your priorities and you're not changing your priorities to morph into what the stress is asking you to do. Simple things like taking your breaks. You know, you may feel that, oh, I can't, I'm falling behind, but you take that 10-minute break, close your eyes, think of something positive, and you're back on your way. Is there anything else that you can add to that, Morris?
Yeah, I think that very much. Yeah, that can help. I think those are very good points. I struggle with depression, and let me tell you, having someone just say "be positive," that does not work, right? So
No.
for me, sometimes it's just like I'll write a to do list, and I'll write down the top three things on that to do list are things I already did, so I can cross those off, get that little dopamine hit, and celebrate the fact that I already got those three things done. Sometimes just taking a shower, that's a victory. Focus on what you can do to slightly improve your situation. That's a good interruption, right? And like give yourself room to not be positive. Try to be positive. If you can't be, that's okay too, right? Where are we at in this outline, Tony?
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you with setting up a to-do list and organizing yourself and focusing on your priorities and what's most important to you. You
Yeah, that
know?
that 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 helps me when I'm burnt out and I don't know. I don't know. It's just like I got too much to do or whatever. I'll write out the whole list and I'll just star the ones. I'll underline the ones that are achievable in my current state. And you know what? That's a win. That's a victory, and that helps me move forward. Um, yeah. That's one of the tips and tricks for me with the burnout. And then sometimes it's just as simple as don't kick yourself because you called in sick, and we're going to talk about EAP later, or called EAP. Just taking care of yourself could be a victory on really bad burnt out days, right? Um, what do we
Speaking
got?
speaking speaking about you getting lost within the outline over here, why don't we take a little smoke break and calm down so we don't get burnt out on this
Oh,
outline.
I'm so glad you brought that up. All right, we'll be back after these messages.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here today. My name is Pam Donato. I'm a retired city letter carrier out of Branch 9, Minneapolis, and I am running for the Director of Retirees on the CLC slate. I wanted to give you a little idea about who I am. I carried mail beginning in 1986 in Minneapolis and got involved, as a lot of people do, on the workroom floor as a steward and then as a food drive coordinator, and then got further involved with my branch, became a part-time officer as a financial secretary. I was then elected as the executive vice president, and then eventually in 2006, I was elected as the branch president. I served there until 2011 when President Rolando asked me to come up to headquarters and work as his special assistant. I held that position from 2011 until 2018 when I retired from both the Postal Service and the NALC. I'm running for Director of Retirees on the CLC slate. And just to remind everyone what the Director of Retirees is, coming right out of the Constitution, the Director of Retirees will be the legislation advocate and the congressional liaison for retired members. Now, maybe a lot of our own members don't understand that in order to be the Director of Retirees, you must yourself be retired. And most other unions in the AFL-CIO, when you retire, your connection with your union kind of goes away. There really isn't a formal role in most other unions for retirees. But since its inception, the NALC saw value in those members who had served in that career and retired, and for good reason. And one of the main reasons that the NALC does have retired members as a very focal point of our union is that because those members can fully engage in all of the political work that needs to be done to advocate for issues that are very relevant to current career letter carriers. The Hatch Act prohibits a lot of activities of active carriers and how they can engage politically. But when you're retired, those rules go away. and retired members can act on behalf of active carrier issues. They act on their own issues, of course, like the Equal COLA Act, which is a current bill in the House and the Senate that would help eliminate a cap that has been placed on cost of living increases that come to your FERS annuity. So about 50% of all retired NELC members are under the FERS retirement system. The other 50% are under the civil service retirement system, and their cost of living increases are not capped. This past year, they enjoyed 2.8% increase on their annuity, where the FERS employees' annuity was capped at 2%, even though all of them suffered the same inflation and cost of living increases. FERS employees only got 2% of that. So that is one area legislatively where the retirees would coalesce around that legislation. It's a House Bill 491, Senate Bill 624, and we would try to advocate and convince members of Congress that this inequity needs to be fixed. It needs to be corrected. It needs to be fair for all retirees around the cost of living increase. But I really want to emphasize that the retirees for the NELC truly do have an investment in what's happening to our active carriers from the moment they get hired as CCAs until they enter retirement. And I say that because the organization is only as good as every link in it. And if we have employees as CCA, Tier 2, lesser paid, no benefit members in our organization, if we let that stand, we will begin to fracture and fray and become less powerful in things that matter to all letter carriers. We can't have different tiers of employees, different tiers of pay that are as great as Tier 1 and Tier 2. We have to make sure that all of the organization's members feel that they're getting and are getting fair wages, fair benefits, equal on par with the people they're working next to every day when they clock in. And so retirees understand because they've been through the system. They understand if we're not all together, if we're not all raising our voices, if we're not all pushing members of Congress, educating our community, if we're not doing those things together, that the organization is less strong. And if you're retired, the last thing you want is the NELC to be less potent. You need to have the organization advocating for you, and you understand the value that that means in bringing all carriers together. And so I understand fully as a retired member how important it is to make sure that the younger employees, that the mid-seniority employees, that those getting near to retirement, that they all feel value in their career, that they all feel relevant in the organization. Because if they don't, we're going to be hurting. And I hope that the younger employees, that the new carriers from CCAs on through understand also the importance of retirees. Retirees have time, they have experience, they understand the system, they understand their communities, and they're really a source of great opportunity, I think, for all NELC members to make sure that we're the strongest organization that we can be in advocating for all of our members. One thing I wanted to give a shout out to for all the CCAs and younger employees is that you have the right as an NELC member to look at the Mutual Benefit Association, which is an NELC program, and look at the different policies that they provide. One of them is the NELC CCA Retirement Savings Plan, which is specifically designed for CCAs and allows contributions to be made automatically deducted from their paycheck. They can buy life insurance, accidental death benefits, and have different policies as an NELC member, whether or not they're getting any benefit toward their FERS retirement. We need to fix that part of it. They need to get credit for every moment they spend carrying mail as an NELC member. But until we're able to get those laws changed to give them full credit for their work, I think the Mutual Benefit Association provides some opportunities for newer members to really start thinking about their future and where they want to be, where they want their family to be as they progress in their career. And I just would like to point out that While it may seem to many of the younger employees, the CCAs, the new in their career employees, that retirees don't really have a vested interest in what's happening to them, nothing could be farther from the truth. When you are retired, even though you're still a part of the NALC, you realize that you're only as strong as every other link in that chain. And if we have members, people that are clocking in every day, picking up keys, getting in a vehicle, delivering mail, that are making less, not having time credited for their retirement, not getting health benefits, full rights to the pay increases, then we know that we have people that don't have a real vested interest in that career yet. So retirees understand that we must take care of the people that are coming in, those who are younger in their seniority and aren't getting a fair shake. If we don't make those people square, if we don't get those people the benefits that they deserve, then we will begin to fracture and rot as a union, because then we've been divided. We understand, we want to help, we have time, we have experience, probably have a lot of good relationships in our communities, and maybe even with some political folks. We've been dabbling in that most of our careers. And so it really is a symbiotic relationship with the younger members and the retirees, and to be honest, the entire membership. We're all impacting each other. And if somebody's not being given a fair shake, then we all need to respond to that. And I think retirees, I know retirees are up to the task, certainly are good for all of the membership. I really appreciate the time today. And I hope that it's just the beginning of a lot of conversations that we can have, not just me personally, but I hope all of the members, when you go to a meeting, when you see activities that are happening at your branch, in your state, and you see retirees, go up and talk to them. And I hope the retirees reach out and talk with all of the active carriers, young and alike, because we have to get back to seeing the value that we bring each other in order for this union to get back to the good works that it's always done. We need each and every one of us to be on board, and connecting the dots in our own ranks is the best way to start that. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to talks in the future.
All right. That was another great sponsor. Another great sponsor. It keeps this machine going. So Townie, we're moving into general tips and tricks. I know you and we just talked a little bit about like what works for you, some of the stuff that works for me. But what are those eggheads in college say? What do the doctors say? The professionals in your research.
Professionals. So one of the things you can look at is if you're not looking at prevention, you can always look at recovery from it. And the thing is knowing the problem, and making sure you prioritize your health. And that's one of the things that I kind of knew for me is I know once I start getting agitated, I either got to talk it out. But the other thing too is I try to keep a couple hours of annual, if not days of annual, especially if you're a CCA. If it's like a Saturday and you're not working Sunday, or if they give you the schedule ahead of time. So like when I was a CCA, I had to hold down, and my drop day was Tuesday. We didn't have rotating schedule where I was. So my drop day was Tuesday because I was on a bid. I would take maybe an hour or two the day before or the day after my break. So my day off was Tuesday, so I'd take an hour or two on a Monday or on a Wednesday. That way I could get out a little early and not have to go back to the full 10-hour day. That's what it was back where I was. Everyone, you work 10s, and they squeezed really tight on no V time at that point. So I know if you can burn a little AL, if you have a little bit of AL to burn it and make sure you prioritize your health and you're addressing the problem and you're making changes so you don't feel like you're at the post office every single second of your life. I know that is super difficult when you start, but if you can find a way to burn a little time to get away, that's definitely something. What about you, Badmouth? Is that something that you do? Do you burn a little
Yeah.
time?
Well, the thing that's really hard as a CCA, and I know with this new contract that's come in, you're supposed to be guaranteed a day off every week. We didn't have that when I was a CCA, so it was something where there were times where I was working 14, 15 days without a day off, and like,
Hmm.
and then you have things like Amazon Sunday, which is the easiest part of your week, but it's also one of the most demoralizing parts of your week. What I found worked for me was giving myself something to look forward to, whether it's a nice meal, your favorite food, whatever. You also have, and Cole's going to come and talk about EAP. They can get you, you can get that day, mental health day off if you really need it, and if you think you really need it, you probably do. So that's a good resource. For me, it was also I just I didn't I didn't feel heard and I didn't feel cared about, right? By the union and by whatever. And like, so I got involved in this, right? And like, you can find community and other people. Like for me, I started, when I was a CCA, I started a group chat with all the other CCAs so we could all bitch, we could all watch each other's back. We all had that sort of like camaraderie with each other. That really helped. If you can't take time and you can't like, uh, give yourself something to look forward to, I think is the biggest thing. When you're in the grind and it feels like it's a nonstop meat grinder, and it is as a CCA, it is as a PTF, it is if you're table two, right? So like you got to give yourself something to look forward to. And one of the things, just because I'm a petty bitch, one of the things is I started learning the contract. I started listening to educational podcasts so I could write a grievance against the people who were bullying me and my buddies CCAs. Right? That's something like that got me, just because I'm petty. That really worked for me. That made me feel like coming in at that grind. I look forward to that. Look forward to putting that grievance slip in. Right? That's a way to get out some of that negative emotion and whatever. But also like I just it's like we all have that sort of like award reward for ourselves later, right? Find something that you really enjoy that you can give yourself as just something to look forward to, right? That when you get paid every 2 weeks, I had a place, and it wasn't an expensive place, it wasn't fancy, but I made sure it was one of my favorite taquerias, and I made sure that on payday I was stopping there every payday. Give yourself something to look forward to, and celebrate the small victories, and look out for each other, and fight the bosses. Like that's how I deal with some of the burnout stuff, and that's how I survive being a CCA. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I can agree with you on that. It's about setting at your expectation and knowing how to manage what the situation is. You got to make sure that you don't alienate yourself from activities that you enjoy. And
yeah.
that's very easy to do in this job because it doesn't just beat you down physically, but it does beat you down mentally.
Oh
S-
yeah, the emotional and mental strain on this job. I know I already got one swear on there. I'm sure you're recording, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be good. The mental and emotional strain is almost worse than the physical strain, right? So you gotta take care of that, right? And like you Townie and Cole, and get in that Discord. There's people that are going to be talking about that stuff, and they can help you with some of that stuff. In the interest of me not getting further burnt out, let's move on in this outline. uh, so we're moving in the keep your head up section. They're like rah rah rah. Let's do this stuff. there's seasonal affective disorder. If you're in the northern states, you've been dealing with snow. You've been dealing with crazy snow and crazy gray skies. You know, I know when I lived in Minnesota, if I looked outside and the sun was shining, it looked like a nice day. It was going to be negative 14 when I stepped out that door. Right? You've been dealing with this stuff since November. That's hard. That compounds any mental self you already got going on, and it makes the burnout worse. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. I already talked about the addition of like all those different layers and how that makes things worse. Give yourself the grace to be like, well, I ain't seen the sun in 6 weeks, so that might be why I'm a little grumpy. And do something to take care of yourself. Give yourself a little treat, something to look forward to. Also, we're still recovering from the holidays, right? And that's part of it. You're still tired. The post office treats you like a machine. You're not like, I remember I put on a 39.96 one time. That's your overtime slip. I said, carrier is tired because we had just worked 12-hour shifts for about 5 days in a row, and I was tired. And they said, that's not a real reason. Like, heck, that isn't a real reason. That's a real reason, right? Give yourself space. Management's going to treat you like you should be a machine and you should work at peak efficiency every day, but you're a human being. You're a human being. You're a human being. Give yourself grace. Post office isn't going to, and that's why we're going to fight them to give you that grace. You're going to have to just fight. Like that's what we're trying to do here, right? Okay, and then I mean, just being a CCA sucks. Tony, you had a story on this. Something to do with admin leave.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. So we're talking about SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and you know, so we had two big storms over here. I kind of want to jump in on that first, and then I'll come into the most recent blizzard. So it's crazy because we had a huge storm. I want to say mid January, and we didn't see the sun for days. Everyone was just not in a good spot. And that's when you really started to talk to me, and we started to really talk about what we wanted to do for this next episode. And I was like, man, the burnout is real right now. And a lot of it probably was because we hadn't seen the sun in like 7 days. It was like super gray, and it wasn't like, it felt like every day it was an eclipse.
Yeah,
It was
if you
crazy.
if you gotta spend, you have only X amount of energy in the day. Anyone who's gone to therapy, the therapist says you only have so many spoons, right? That's the measurement in therapy speech. If you have X amount of energy in the day, and you're having to burn through a portion of that every morning just to brace yourself to walk out into that cold and under that gray sky, like that takes a toll after months.
Well, that's exactly it. And so we just had one of the most historic storms up here in the Northeast. At least in my area, we broke records like the 1978 blizzard records here in 2026 in my part of the country. And we're all tired from it, but I feel like I'm in a much better mood. Not just because my buddy Badmouth is cheerleading me, but it's been sunny out. It like snowed for, it felt like 2 days straight. You know,
I heard it
but
got up to 36 degrees there today, a big balmy 36.
I think that was yesterday. Today it was cold. It was like in the teens and low 20s. But a couple days ago it was in the 40s, man. It was like, it was unbelievable. You could feel like you were walking on air for a minute. And I think by the end of next week it says it might hit the 60s. But yeah, no, with the blizzard, it's crazy, and it's hard for CCAs there because you're supposed to have a set schedule and all these things, but then they have a blizzard, and next thing you know, you're not really allowed admin like everyone else is if the place closes down, which it did. So some CCAs are going without admin when
Wait, hold on. For
regulars.
our CCAs, when you're a regular and there's an act of God, Just sorry to interrupt, Tony. Just for the
Yeah, break it down for
CCAs
me,
who don't
brother.
know. So when you're snowed in and they can't deliver and you're regular, you're supposed to get your 8 hours that day, right? If there's no operations and they're whatever, they got to pay you what's called admin leave. So they still pay you for those 8 hours, right? And usually the union's going to have to fight them for it because they're scumbags and they're going to try and get out of that or charge you your annual or your sick leave, which you'll get more of that as a once you get to PTF, guys. Just hang in there. I swear to God, it gets better. But like they're guaranteed a PTF a regular is guaranteed that work, right? So they'll get admin leave, but a CCA, you're not guaranteed that work, right? So that's what
Mm-hmm.
Tony's talking about when he's talking about how that sucked. Those 2 days, those snow days, I'm sure those CCAs felt great getting to spend time with their family, but they weren't getting paid in that storm, right?
Exactly. And that's one of those things that right now, while we're sitting in contract negotiations, that's one of those things like get out and be heard. Make your voice out, make your voice be heard right now, get your voice in the mix in 2026. That's a real thing, you know? And I'm just encouraging you guys to be part of the union and that because you guys shouldn't be treated like second tier citizens. That is one of those things that I can't stand. But
Hey,
getting
Tony, real quick, just to interrupt you. You're going to be plugging our next episode where we got a PTF who's doing a lot of that organizing. So if everyone wants to listen to that coming up.
Oh yeah. We have our buddy Xavier Gonzalez coming in out of Austin and pushing about talking about being young, being active, and about those February 22nd rallies and what it means for him and what it means to be new in the union and pushing the union forward as the union continues to grow. The union should never stay stagnant. It always needs to grow. It always needs to encourage and embrace new ideas from new members in order to better suit an ongoing and growing membership. I don't know if I've said that right, but that's exactly how I feel about the union. I love when we embrace our new carriers. You never know where you could be missing out on things and seeing things from a point of view that you've never really thought of or seen. What do you think, New Jack?
I totally messed up your flow. I apologize, Tony. Like, we're both so burnt out. We're both fried. Cole's gonna hate us on this one. Sorry, buddy. So let's. Should we just segue into the soapbox so we can wrap this up so Cole doesn't send me another dead rat in the mail?
But real
Uh,
quick before before we pass it off to Cole, there's one thing that I do want to get pumped up about and pump up our CCAs about. You know, we all know after the holiday, the volume drops and expectations return to 8 and skate for single routes almost immediately. You know, and I know it's been a struggle this winter. You had your hat frozen solid, Badmouth. Me, I was buried in for 2 days. It was pretty rough. But not to get religious or overly Irish over here, but St. Patrick's Day is almost here, my friend. That means spring is about to be sprung. And that
the
means
face I just
delivery.
made, the face Cole just made.
So, for that being said, knowing that spring is about to be sprung and delivery is going to be 10 times better, however, that just is followed by the summer burnout of prime time. Just know that it could flip with the climate either way. It could be hot and there can be a lot of people off. You got to always make sure you take time for yourself. Self-care is important. Staying militant to your routine, just like you stay militant to the contract. Make sure you take care of yourself and put yourself forward. That being said, I'd love to segue over to our buddy Cole, who's going to kill both of us for going on tangents. What do you got on that soapbox there, Cole?
Oh, boys! I'm back! Okay. I'm not going to kill either of you. Something. Dobby never meant to kill, only maim or mortally injure. Something like that.
Yeah. For the sake of legal reasons, these are all jokes.
No, I would never harm either of you. All right. All right. So let me get serious for a second. So it's very apt that we're recording this tonight. Because tomorrow morning, it's 10 p.m. I'm gonna wrap this up, and then I'm going I'll censor myself in the episode. I'm going to bed.
Cole's gonna have to put in the coin exchange for that one.
It's not a problem for Cole generally, so leave Cole alone.
So anyway, but tomorrow morning I'm going to be giving this exact same spiel to my class that I do every class that I teach. I talk about EAP, and I always outline it as a benefit that we have, and especially if you are a newer CCA, you need to be aware of this benefit, right? So kind of all throughout the week, I get to know these people, right? And I usually do it a little bit later in the week. It's just this week our schedule's a little weird, so I'm going to do it early. But I get to know these people, right? And we get to know one another, and they kind of get to see me be goofy. Because when I'm teaching, much as in life, I'm kind of goofy with it. I try to keep things fun and light and... Bro, okay, pause. So these guys just saw me look behind me because, like, what just happened? There's a ghost in my house, and it just knocked over a bunch of boxes. So, anyway.
Maybe the ghost is burnt out and needs EAP.
He might. So, listen up, ghost. Anyway. But like I said, I'm kind of... I'm kind of fun and goofy with it, right? And then I always kind of bring the tone down a little bit, just like I'm going to do here. EAP stands for the Employee Assistance Program. And there's a point in the class where, if you know me, I've got a few tattoos. Where, when we talk about, like robberies and stuff, because this is stuff we bring up in the class. We mention, hey, look, if you're robbed, you got to look for distinguishing characteristics of somebody, right? And so I usually point out, my tattoos. I'm like, because you, just like my mom said, hey, that doesn't wash off, yes, mother, I know. And I always hold up my right arm, and I'm holding up for these guys here, but they've both seen it before. I have a tattoo of my arm of a semicolon. And I always say, for those of you that know the traditional meaning of a semicolon, and a few people nod their heads, and a few people kind of look a little confused, I say, for those of you that don't, traditionally, that's a tattoo for those that have overcome suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And then I launch into a little bit about my history. So I touched on it a little bit in the mental health episodes. I'm not going to go crazy here, but, I had some mental health problems for a little while. My whole life I did, but I didn't recognize it, of course. And things got really bad for me at one point. And my sister basically told me, hey, you have an appointment. Here's the address. Here's the time you're going. It was a therapy appointment. I like to point out that my sister and I are not that close, but that's probably the best thing she's ever done for me. I've been in therapy almost 3 years now as a result. And doubly as apt that we're doing this episode is I was in therapy today. Actually, just before recording, I had an appointment this evening, and I always mention that, hey, you know, I've been going for 3 years, and I'm in the best place I've ever been now, right? In fact, we started off therapy today, and I told these guys I was going to take 10 minutes, and it's probably going to be 20, so whatever. Listen to me yap for a little bit. It's a yap fest in here. Arrest me for felony yapping. But no, I therapy or mental health rather is so important to me. But the reason I like to talk about this is because I don't know any of you listening. Just like I don't know really any of the people that are in my classes, right? I don't know what you've been through. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know where you are in your life. Okay. And you have access to this employee assistance program, which can act as a gateway to therapy, right? Your first session, I always mention some benefits about it, right? Your first session is on the clock. You get paid to go talk to somebody about what's going on with you. They pay you for that. If you're a brand new CCA, you make $21.21 to go talk to somebody and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this, right? That's your hourly rate, $21.21, right? If you're brand new. If you've been here longer than that, you get paid even more. So why would you not take advantage of this, right? And past that, so your first one you get paid for. Past that, you know, the other 7, I believe it's 8 free sessions that you get. The other 7 you do have to make your own accommodations for as far as your time goes. But you can change your life with EAP, okay? I'll give some specific examples like I typically do, right? I've got a very close friend who I actually learned about EAP through years and years and years ago. This friend said, hey, I've been going to this EAP thing, and it's really helping me. And we talked for a little while about it, and I was like, hey, you know, what is it? You know, tell me about it. And this is, like I said, years ago. And they described to me the change that it made in their life. Okay, Mal, who you guys know, you know, who are longtime listeners, or not even that long, but those of you that have listened in the past, you know Mal. She's used EAP multiple times, right? I've called EAP, and they were not able to provide me the care that I needed at the time, but they were kind of a resource, right? Honestly, I never followed through with it. That's on me. And that's kind of where my sister came in on that. But it can be your gateway to therapy, right? Because they can provide you short-term care if you need it with those 8 sessions. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need a little boost. Past that, they can provide you with resources in your area and connect you with long-term care. Okay? Those at EAP, they talk to carriers and clerks and supervisors and postal employees all the time. They understand what we're going through on a daily basis. And I'll wrap this up with this. So I was in therapy today, and I had brought up just kind of offhandedly that, hey, you know, I'm a big proponent for mental health in my classes, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, we talked for a minute because it was, honestly, like I said, I'm in the best place I've ever been. It was fairly uneventful today, but I still go regularly and check in and what have you. But I asked my therapist, and I know she's not listening, but those of you that need a therapist, if you're in my area, hit me up. I will connect you with the best therapist in Central North Carolina. My opinion. It's not just opinion. It's fact. Brooke, how you doing? Anyway, I asked her, I said, hey, tell me something. I said, from a therapist, from somebody with letters behind your name. I said, give me something, like a little bite, right? I don't remember exactly how I worded it. And she said this. She said, therapy is not for when things are already bad. Now, the cynics and the audience may go, well, yeah, of course she's going to say that. She directly benefits from people going to therapy, right? Here's the thing. Session number 1 I ever had with this therapist, she said, my job is to put myself out of a job. My job is to make it where you no longer need therapy. All right? That's how I know that that's not coming from a place of, come spend money here, come have your insurance pay me. It's coming from a place of genuine care. I believe that. Yeah, I've been rambling on for a little bit, and I don't really know how to end things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw it over to Townie, who is going to tell us about a couple upcoming things. Morris looks like he's got a note.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from here then. Some of the things that are coming up are that podcast we were talking about, which was with Xavier Gonzalez, who's a PTF, who's doing the thing, grinding, and pushing the union forward with these February 22nd rallies. I can't wait to sit down and have this discussion with him. How about you, Badmouth?
Yeah, I think we got that coming up, and I just wanted to just real quick on the way out, because I started to write a note and I didn't finish writing it. Now I forgot what it said, but echo what Cole was saying. Is just the therapy is maintenance, and I wanted to plug in this upcoming episode. We got Xavier and Gonzalez coming on. That rules. But also I wanted to plug our mental health episode that Cole and I did, and with Mallory. That's still one of our best episodes we've ever done. We'll put that down in the show notes. Yeah, we got a bunch of fun stuff coming up. I know that there's some notes we had about a previous episode. I'll just reach out to those people in particular. We'll talk about that stuff later. We're all burnt out and our heads are soup. Our brains are soup right now. So, yeah, I don't know what else we got, Townie. We got anything else in the notes, or am I crazy? Are we done? Did we do a damn thing?
I think we did the damn thing.
No. Oh God, that's 2 swears. I think I counted 2. How many do you count, Townie?
I don't know. I just heard damn thing, and damn don't count.
I just snitched on myself. I just freaking snitched on myself.
That's realization, baby. That's it.
Oh gosh.
That's putting your priorities straight. He's already using the methods, baby. I love it.
Dang it.
And with that, roll the credits.
On the way out the door. So, fun fact for you listening, this is recorded after what Morris is going to say in a minute, and I'm going to cut it in. On the way out the door, I would like to mention that coming up in the next couple of months, I cannot tell you what our schedule will look like. I don't know what my schedule for editing will look like, on account of a small little thing called a baby. This tiny little.
How did we forget the baby? How did we forget the baby? Why isn't the baby in the outline, Cole?
I don't know, man. I didn't write it.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm so sorry, buddy.
There's another one.
Oh God, that's 3. Okay.
You're gonna love what I have for this, by the way. So I don't know what my schedule's gonna look like as of yet. The upcoming interview with Xavier will likely be pretty heavily unedited, if I'm honest with you, because that will be right into crunch time for preparing for delivery. Because we usually schedule to record these around the first of the month, so that'll kind of get us into the last couple of weeks. And then past that, I will be at home basically the month of May. But I don't know what my time's going to look like at home just yet, right?
You ain't going to have much time, baby. It's going to be the best experience of your life, brother.
It's going to be great. I'm probably going to do a lot of sleeping and just what have you. So please stick with us on that. There may be some episodes that are very heavily unedited where you might get to hear all of the mess ups that we have throughout our recording process. But I will leave that up to these guys. And now I'm going to cut this here, and I'm going to insert this, and then Badmouth is going to take us home.
All right. So we just did, through the magic of editing, you went from 2 swears to 3 swears back to 2 swears, but it's 3 on total. Mark that, Tony. All right. Yeah, all right, listeners. We love you very much. Chingalamigra, and thank you for listening, and we'll catch up later. If we didn't get to one of your comments, because I know I told someone we'd address it and we didn't, I will call you personally in the next couple days, all right? Don't come after me because I can't swear right now. All right. Love you guys very much. Solidarity forever.